In this review of the week's news, will Christchurch see a $3 billion cash injection for the rebuild? Up in a way, a Sumner property disappears by air, and could you listen to the same song for hours on end? This is CTV News Week in Review. I'm Jared McCulloch. The Christchurch City Council could see a major cash injection into the city's rebuild, with the Chinese development company interested in the city. But what does it all mean? CTV News spoke to the Canterbury Chamber of Commerce about the announcement this week. Christchurch will see a major capital injection into the city's rebuild, with a Chinese development company looking at spending up to $3 billion New Zealand dollars.
It's a great commitment for Christchurch. Basically what they've done is they've come into the region, they've identified that there's huge opportunities here for them, and they've made a commitment by saying, look, we want to bring some expertise, we want to add some value to the rebuild of Christchurch, and they've chosen some local partners to identify where they can best do that.
Govsing International, a group split into a number of organisations, is one of the biggest development companies in China. Over the past 16 years, they've invested around $750 billion into many projects, both in China and abroad. There hasn't been any confirmation yet into what areas the Chinese group are interested in here in Christchurch, but it's understood major projects could be on the cards, even anchor projects.
They're a massive company. Any investment outside of New Zealand generally is on the large scale, but they're also fully aware of the fact that some of our opportunities are big, some of them are small. So I think that's what they're doing, is they're really identifying exactly what now.
The Christchurch City Council has signed an agreement of friendship to improve connections, not only for the investment but for other areas, including export opportunities.
There is a lot of interest internationally in Christchurch. It's not often that a city gets to completely rebuild. So there's a lot of opportunities across the whole city, not just in the rebuild either, I might add. There's a lot of interest in some of our other key industry sectors here in the region. We're renowned for being leaders in innovation and technology, and so a lot of interest coming in, and the rebuild is sometimes a catalyst for putting the spotlight on Christchurch.
The council hope to attract more overseas investors to help grow the city, being a problem for some time to get investments set in stone. They hope the latest deal will help create a template for others who are interested in the region.
We have lots of delegations that come into Christchurch, and even more so over the last 3 or 4 years. And I think the difference with this is that they have come in to the marketplace. They've done a lot of work in building relationships locally. They want to work with local people. They want to collaborate.
The council will be hoping this will be one of many to jump on board the rebuild. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. Residents of Sumner may have noticed something different in the air this week. Literally. Chelsea Daniels has more.
The deconstruction of a house in Sumner had locals out watching the process, with a helicopter replacing the work of several trucks and machinery.
There's a demolition taking place over my left shoulder at number 12. The house has been demolished. The material has been put into bags which can be an underslung load for the helicopter. The helicopter is about to take off again. It'll pick up the bags, take them up the hill and deposit them on the truck from which they'll be taken away.
And they didn't just wing it.
You'll be able to see from the site that it's difficult to get to. It's very steep and constrained. This is the safest and most cost-efficient method for us.
They looked at a number of methods, and this was the most cost-effective way. And Wenda says the process could be repeated for future projects.
We look at all methodologies, or a number of them each time we do this. In these particular circumstances, it was the most cost-effective and safest way of doing it. I suspect it'll be back on the table for other sites later on as well.
The house sported a huge cliff and earthquake risk, and as a result was uninhabitable.
You can see up there how close it is to the cliff. So the damage on the house was not huge, but the risk to the house was considerable. Therefore, the government offer was made, accepted. We now own it, and we're using this methodology to take the debris away.
He says that it's not the first time this method has been used, but it's the first time Sarah have adopted it.
We know of a number of occasions where it has been used. It's the first time we've done it in this manner. We've used helicopters for other work elsewhere, and we know of several other insurance companies that have used it as well.
And it's the least disruptive for the residents around the site.
All those houses there are all privately owned. All the owners have been spoken to about what's happening today. Everyone's comfortable with what's going on. It's a really short transit. The disruption to the community is a big part of our consideration. We're doing this. By using a helicopter, we can really minimise that. Having a number of trucks in there and heavy equipment, noise, dust, vibration, etc. would be much more disruptive. This method reduces that considerably.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
3 new units were unveiled this week as part of the council's social housing program. 40 new properties are currently in the construction phase to help restock and rehouse those who need them. Another step forward for social housing in Christchurch.
We were sitting here on a bare building site with a digger in place, having photos taken, having done the sod turning to celebrate the start of the construction project. Here we are today with 3 fantastic new units completed and ready for tenants to move into in the next couple of weeks.
These new units were opened in St Albans today. It's been a big year for the Christchurch City Council and its housing portfolio, with many new social units being repaired and replaced.
We are progressing, we are improving, and we are adding to social housing in Christchurch. We had over 2,600 units, and then of course with the quake we had a lot of closures and a lot of housing units that were significantly damaged, and now gradually we are rebuilding and we're repairing those that have been damaged.
These new properties are part of 41 new units under construction currently throughout the city, replacing 113 of the council's housing lost in the red zone after the earthquakes. The 3 units add to 12 already on the site.
As we've been repairing and tenants have been moving back in, they're re-establishing in their communities, and we're getting a sense of going forward.
A Māori blessing started the proceedings where the new tenants will soon make home. The modern units will help cater for the shortage of social housing after the quakes, with many being put into temporary accommodation while buildings are fixed up and built.
These will be people moving into these units permanently, elderly tenants. We've got units here that are fit for purpose, they're insulated, they're going to be warm and cosy for those people, and we've got wet rooms as bathrooms, fully accessible, and we've even got charging points for mobility scooters with each unit as well.
Turner says they're well on track to have their next houses open soon.
We're ahead of target in terms of providing the number of open units that we're needing to provide for the figures in the long-term plan. We've got a number of complexes exactly like these that will be opening between now and the end of the financial year in line with that target of 41 new units. So we're either on target or in some ways ahead of target for exactly what we said we were going to do to recover from the earthquakes.
But for now, there'll be a short wait for tenants expected to move in next month. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. Still to come, some good news for those looking to rent in Canterbury. Welcome back. Latest housing figures show the cost of rentals are continuing to drop throughout the city. Good news for those looking for rental accommodation, but will it last? New research shows a decline in Christchurch rental prices over the past 5 months. A Tranmere property report sees nearly a 5% drop in pricing compared to last year.
People have got more choice. They're not having to grab the first rental property that they can, and they're not having to pay quite the money that they were previously. So that may mean that they're able to actually get a slightly better level of accommodation than they could in the past.
Before the quakes, the average residential price was sitting around $320, but since then that number has soared to $500, now taking a decline down $80.
There's certainly been a softening in rentals. The rents that people are having to pay for rental properties. There's also more choice out there, so rental properties are taking longer to lease, and the amount of rents dropping. So those figures bear out what I've been experiencing firsthand.
Canterbury is one of 3 regions where prices have dropped, with the West Coast and Gisborne seeing the same trends over the space of a year.
Probably less people out there looking for rental properties, mainly people that have needed to shift out of their homes for earthquake repairs. The bulk of that's already happened, so there's less of those people that are out there in the rental market competing with the long-term renters.
With supply and demand of houses starting to flatten out.
I think the other factor is there's more houses available, possibly houses that have been repaired, seeing it as an opportunity to either enter or buy a further property if they're an existing investor.
Now with more options for house hunters to pick from, Meechin believes the market will begin to calm down, making it easier for those to get a place to call home.
It's a 4-year period, so and while rents may not get back to where they were pre-earthquake. It's probably a little more realistic longer term in terms of what people are able to actually afford.
A similar trend in the long term.
I would think there's probably going to be a flattening out, so I would expect that maybe where rents are at the moment, I wouldn't anticipate that they would fall too much further.
Time will tell if the downward trend will continue. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. It went up in flames but is likely to be reopened soon. The Barrington Park playground is set to be rebuilt thanks to community support. Chelsea Daniels has more.
Barrington Park is soon to be open again, sooner than we expected, with the playground set to open to the public by October 10th.
We're going to have a sausage sizzle and a celebration with the community because this rebuild, the rebuild of the slide, was community-led. And I can tell you it was led by Sarah Pullman, who's now chairperson of the Addington Residents Association. It was led by Jeff Poulter of Barrington, Ray White, and he was the one who opened the Give a Little website.
The community was left reeling after the loss of its beloved playground when an arsonist set fire to the site, located next door to Barrington Mall.
It was set fire to. We don't know who. It's the kinds of things people with a lot of time on their hands and not a lot of goals in life, perhaps. It's the kind of thing that they do, but it was destructive and it was to the detriment of the children of the area and their parents.
And the public have had a hand in the rebuild process.
They led us. We didn't lead them. I shouldn't be here. Sarah Pullman should be here, and Jeff Poulter should be here, and Ivan Lawson should be here, and the community should be here because they've contributed small sums and some big ones. And it's them that's led to the rebuild of the slide, which cost a heck of a lot more than you would think.
The playground is not covered by any of the City Council's insurance policies, but the community wouldn't take no for an option.
Insuring parks is almost impossible and costs heaps, more than the council can really afford, you know, and that's understandable. I can understand that, and especially when there's people going around, you know, occasionally doing what they did here. But we're hoping that the cameras will give us some security.
The rebuild of the playground comes at around about $40,000, with the council fronting half and the community board coughing up $5,000.
Half of which is on the safety flooring underneath the slide ground, the safety ground underneath the slide, and you wouldn't know that.
She says the future of playgrounds in the city is exciting.
We asked them to look at disability access. Now, I know they can't change the disability access for the whole playground, but we asked them to have a think about it in terms of the slide. And I'm not sure what's happened there, but I know that playgrounds from now on have got increasing disability access so that all people can come and enjoy themselves.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
More cases of whooping cough are being reported in the region, with medical experts urging parents to get their vaccinations, with a small-scale epidemic of the disease taking place. Whooping cough is on the rise around the region. The Canterbury District Health Board is aware of 16 cases in the last month, small clusters at some schools.
It can be treated, or the contacts can be prevented either by getting the vaccination, sometimes with antibiotics as well. So it's important that people get to see their doctor, but absolutely do not go to school if you're unwell.
Areas south of Canterbury reported cases of whooping cough last month, believed to have spread up the island. Nearly every 4-year period, cases of whooping cough increases, with smaller cases popping up in between.
We don't expect it to be one of these big outbreaks. But it's very important for parents to be vigilant. You know, it's important for them to get the vaccination for their children, and it's important for them to keep their kids at home and go to the GP if their children are unwell.
Although Humphrey says the cases may not be as high compared to 2013, it still has an impact on a smaller scale.
It's not as concerning from a population perspective, but if you're in a family where you have whooping cough, it's a miserable time. It's bad for adults when they get it. It's extremely dangerous for infants when they get it.
He says support is there for suffering residents, especially those expecting a newborn.
The vaccine is free for pregnant women, and that's very important because it protects mums but also protects their newborn babies.
The bigger outbreaks can get into the hundreds, but the CDHB urges residents to get their jabs, but their push is to get them on time.
Whooping cough vaccination helps protect the community. It does help protect individuals, but it doesn't have 100% effectiveness. It reduces your risk. So it's important to have it, and it's important for as many of us to have it as possible. With the right kind of support from the community, with people making sure they get vaccinated, with children staying away from school when they're unwell, with the school holidays coming up so kids aren't mixing so much, hopefully we won't see a big increase.
Jared McCulloch, CTV News. Well, still to come, Barry Manilow like never before, and apparently it's a New Zealand first. Welcome back. Do you have a bit of stubble you take to the workplace? One wouldn't think a bit of facial hair could have a negative impact on your working environment. That's the case for one Christchurch local, though, who's been suspended from work until he sorts out his beard. Here's Gordon Finn later.
This is Culain Chandre Walsh, and like me, he has a beard. Walsh works as a delivery man, but for the last 11 days, he's been suspended from work. Why? Because of his beard. So I thought we'd do something manly men with beards do, and had a chat about his situation over a game of pool.
Yeah, well, I was initially told that the facial hair wasn't acceptable and that I had to shave, and so I ignored it for a couple of days, and then once that case came about, on the next Monday I turned up at work, I was asked to shave. I was approached with a bit of shaving foam and a razor, and I declined that, and straight after that I had a meeting at the lunchtime, which went for about 45 minutes to an hour, chipped into most of my day, and I was told I had a disciplinary meeting on the Friday saying that could lead to a written warning, but ended up being suspended.
Now, I can understand working with food, for example, how facial hair may impact your work. So how does Walsh's beard affect his position?
You wouldn't think it would affect the service whatsoever. I mean, our main key is to obviously keep everything secure in a truck. Beards never had anything to do with that. When they come off the truck, it's on a tail lift, and then going into the customer's house, the main thing, of course, is getting through that doorway without damaging it. So I don't understand how this has ever popped in the way by any means whatsoever.
Walsh was originally given a suspension without pay from Smith City. After doing some research of his own, though, he discovered he couldn't be suspended without pay unless he was under disciplinary action from the police or the firm.
I texted my boss with the information saying that I knew that I shouldn't be suspended without pay. He said it wasn't his issue to deal with, and I was to get in touch with the HR people. I didn't seek any advice from those guys. Instead I went to the press. And then with the press, what they did is did a full article, got in touch with my boss, and as soon as the CEO was contacted, the press had the article cancelled, and my work contacted me and told me that I'll be getting full pay.
All smells a bit fishy to me. After making a phone call to Smith City's HR, I was told they would not be making any comment. All I wanted to know, though, like Walsh, was how a bit of facial hair warrants a suspension. According to Walsh, he's never had any comments about his beard from clients.
I've had nothing mentioned about the beard. The main thing that gets mentioned is my height and the smile that I wear throughout the day.
So what was the motivation behind the beard?
Well, there's a couple of reasons behind it. Initially, my girlfriend said that she enjoyed the stubble, so I thought, got to keep the other half happy. Another reason behind it, I really don't enjoy getting the old ingrown hairs, as many people would understand that. And number three, I wanted to build a little bit of confidence, funnily enough, in the old white whiskers. So that's a couple of reasons behind it there.
Well, Culain seems pretty stoked about his beard. He is hoping he can convince his employer that the beard should stay as well. Walsh is due to have another meeting tomorrow where he's hopeful a solution can be found to get him back to work. Gordon Findlater, CTV News.
A group of Diamond Harbour locals came together to help support their volunteer fire service by listening to Barry Manilow's hit single Mandy over and over again. Could you do it? Diamond Harbour. It's 7 o'clock. It's quiet. The streets, they're quiet too. But as for the cafe, well, it's Barry Manilow happy hour, or maybe two. Keen locals piling in, ready to challenge themselves like never before. Some say it's torture, others say it's for a good cause.
Well, it started off as basically a joke one evening in the bar. Somehow we discovered a thing on YouTube. It was Barney Manilow singing Mandy, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
It's something he's looking forward to, I think.
Oh, God. Oh, well, you couldn't, nah.
It was Manilow's first #1 hit back in the 70s, gaining huge success in the US and Canada. It only reached number 30 in New Zealand. And somehow it turned into a marathon event, competitors being sponsored to raise funds for their volunteer fire service.
We're needing to replace our old 1975 van, so we're looking for something now with a stretcher in it, or a stretcher capable to do an interchange with St John's, that sort of thing.
They need $70,000 in fact, a customised vehicle to help with their medical response as well as fire. It's not an easy task. The 20 volunteer members work hard to keep the community safe with around 60 call-outs a year. Last year it was over 100.
We just really appreciate these guys, and they're so passionate about what we do that it sort of, it strikes a bit of a chord in their hearts too.
So the grueling 2-hour marathon begins. It's half an hour in. Everyone seems okay.
Can I go home now?
But there's some relief for those not competing.
He's got earplugs and headphones provided for the people that aren't involved in the sponsorship. So when it gets too much for them, they can put them on. But we don't have that luxury.
So do they think they can do it?
It's okay for the first 3 minutes, and then it's.
Well, I remember the days when I really used to like him, but I haven't heard him for years, so it's all new again.
Once you hit about 45 minutes, I think you're going to hit the hit the peak, and then it's going to get a bit hard.
It is everywhere, trust me. Even around the corner where the smoking bay is, they've got a speaker there and they can hear Mandy over and over again. But inside is where it's all happening. Follow me.
You could easily, run away from it. You can go into the bathroom, you can go out for a cigarette. So we decided, no, absolutely not. So it's piped into the bathroom and outside, as you can hear. So there's no escaping.
As we were filming, we absorbed the tune. We started all right, and then, well, it went downhill from there. How are you feeling so far?
Well, I just feel like it's one line playing in my head continuously, but I'm actually more worried about tomorrow. I just think that everyone here is just going to be humming the one line all day.
Tomorrow, when we start driving our cars and we start getting to your head, you're still driving, it's going to be there. We'll probably have to have another pint to just get over the line.
There's only 15 minutes to go. I think this song might be deleted from some personal playlists.
Absolutely not. I will not want to hear it again.
Oh, I was doing well before this, I think, yes.
Have you been enjoying it? Can't I have?
Oh, luckily she's got earmuffs.
But it's like you're listening to it through headphones, so it's a bit worse.
2 hours, or 120 minutes, or 7,200 seconds. Yep, it's all over. Raising just over $4,000, their work here is done. They plan to do something similar next year, but for now, believe it or not, some are just enjoying the encore. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.